And we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to talk about the Cardinals. Basically, their head coach coming out and saying they're going to stick with Kyler Murray going forward. Jonathan Gannon made an appearance, his weekly appearance on the Burns and Gambo show. And he said that there's no doubt that Kyler Murray will be his starting quarterback starting in 2024. He said Murray's our franchise quarterback. So they're going to stick with him. And right now the Cardinals, they are in position. Well, they have a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft. So right now they're at. We'll pull up Tankathon really quick. So right now they have the 4th pick in the draft. So ahead of them are the Bears, who clinched the number 1 overall pick with the Panthers losing again. The Commanders are at 2, Patriots at 3, and then they're at 4. The Giants are then behind them at 5. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. They could go offensive linemen. They're probably not going to get Marvin Harrison Jr., because they need some help with the receiver too. Because you have Marquise Brown there, Michael Wilson, the rookie, Rondell Moore. But you need, they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins. But they're going to need another, big time target for Kyler Murray. And obviously, you still got James Conner, who's been playing well in recent weeks. But the Cardinals, they have a lot of things they need to address here in the offseason. But to look at Kyler's stats since he's come back, just pull those up right now. So he's got an 86.8 quarterback rating, 1,500 yards passing, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's been okay since he's been back. Listen, 3 touchdowns against Philly, comeback win. That was a big win for them. I did say they're probably going to win a few more games, but they're 4-12 right now. Could they win on Sunday against Seattle? Yeah, I think so. Now, is this the right decision? I think so. Because you know what you have in Kyler. If you go in a different direction, who knows what's going to end up happening? You could end up, missing out on a guy, and you end up picking the wrong quarterback, and then that sets you back even further. With Kyler, when Kyler's healthy, Kyler's a solid quarterback. Now, when he came into the league, it looked like he was going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Injuries, obviously he tore his ACL late in the season last year. The Cardinals didn't finish with a great record. And obviously there's been, some behind-the-scenes stuff and, whether Kyler's committed to the team. And, obviously there's all the Call of Duty jokes. Whenever there's a new Call of Duty that drops, Kyler's not going to, play, something like, it's just, there was a lot of question marks, or not a lot, but some question marks with Kyler and his commitment. Listen, they signed him in before the 2022 season. They signed him to a 5-year, $230.5 million contract extension. So, they got to be committed to him. So, and they have some pieces that they could build around. Like I said, Trey McBride, ever since, Zach Ertz got hurt, and he's kind of taken over as the, the top tight end, he's been solid. They got some pieces that they could build around, but, they got a lot of work to do. But, look back to when the Cardinals, made the playoffs. They got bounced out by the Rams. I don't even think Kyler didn't even finish the game, I don't think. That definitely left a lot of, bitter taste in some people, because just like how that game went. And listen, how the Cardinals started off. The Cardinals had like the best record in the NFL at one point, a couple years ago, and then the wheels kind of fell off, and they just they flamed out, and then they were one and done against the Rams. Then last year, I think they were 4-8 when he tore his ACL against the Patriots on that Monday night. So it's been a rough couple of years for Kyler and the Cardinals. Obviously Cliff Kingsbury getting fired. They bring in Jonathan Gannon. So we'll see. And the Cardinals have been competitive in a lot of games this year. They've beaten Dallas and they've beaten Philly. Giants were able to beat them. That comeback win in week 2. I know my friends are going crazy and being like, yeah, Daniel Jones, he's the guy. And I'm like, we beat the Cardinals. We had no business winning that game. And that was when it was like, all right, the season's back on. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. And here we are. They're 5-11. But the Cardinals, they've won games that they shouldn't have won. Like I said, against Dallas and Philly, they've been competitive. They were beating the Bengals at one point when the Bengals started to click on all cylinders. When Jamar Chase had that 3-touchdown game, they were winning that game at one point. They've been a scrappy team, and listen, they can, good draft, get some free agents. I say that about like basically every team because again, it's easier said than done. This could be a scrappy team, and if Kyler stays healthy, and you could give him some protection, maybe get another wide receiver. The Cardinals, they'll be a scrappy team next year, that you're not going to want to deal with. But again, I think for me, I think it's the right move. Because again, it's hard to find. Now, again, do I think Kyler Murray is like, one of the top quarterbacks in the league? No, but I think, if he's able to look like the Kyler Murray before the ACL injury, he can get back to being like a top 10 quarterback. And everybody talks about his size, and like I said before, the stuff with the commitment issues and him, like, I think it was like they wanted him to watch film and he wasn't doing that. I don't know. That whole situation was weird, but it's I think it's like I said, I think it's the right move. Because again, you could risk, letting Kyler go, and you bring in a new quarterback, and again, that sets you back even further. Now, this quarterback class is going to be good. One of the better quarterback classes, in recent years. So, we'll see, what ends up happening. But the Cardinals, you keep Kyler and you just build the team up around him. I think that's the right way to go. With the Bears, it's a little different, just because they have the number 1 overall pick, so they could do a lot of things with that. They could also like trade Fields and get a bunch of picks. Like there's so many things they could do. Like the Cardinals, they don't have the top pick, but they are in the top 5. But I agree with them keeping Kyler. He's just got to stay healthy. He's got to stay healthy. The other thing too is they're in a tough division. Like you look at like the Rams and the season they've had. Obviously the 49ers are the class of the NFC West, and they're not going to be going anywhere for a while, unless guys get hurt. In Seattle, even after trading Russell Wilson, made the playoffs last year. Again, have a chance to make the playoffs again this year, even with Geno Smith not having as good of a year as he did last year. The division's tough. It's one of the toughest divisions in the NFL. The Cardinals, they're a last place team right now. So they got some work to do, but I think they have a better quarterback situation than the Seahawks. I think Kyler at full strength against Geno Smith. You would take Kyler. Matthew Stafford, he's getting older. I don't know how much longer, he's going to be playing for. So, the Rams are going to be looking for a quarterback soon. And people still have their question marks with Brock Purdy, but I think for now he's the guy. So Cardinals, stick with Kyler, because you know what you have in him. If you could surround him with talent, he's shown that in the past that he can be a solid quarterback. And since he's come back, I mean, the Cardinals, they beat the Eagles in Philly. I think they're making the right decision. So, again, we'll see what the Cardinals end up doing. If they, how they approach the draft, what they can surround Kyler with. I mean, you got the quarterback. Now you just got to, build around him. The offensive line is like the most important thing. That's the one. That's what you got to do. Like, you look at the Giants. I mean, like, are they gonna draft a quarterback? Even if they do, the offensive line is still a mess. I mean, in recent years, it really does go to show you how important an offensive line is. I mean, again, the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers gets hurt 4 plays into the season. And that was the one problem I had. How's the offensive line going to be? Wasn't good. So I think that's, but the Cardinals, they have a lot of holes that other than offensive line, that they got to address. So it might take a couple of years, but they got Kyler Murray on that extension. You just got to work. You got to work towards rebuilding this roster, getting it back to being a playoff team like it was a couple years ago. So again, easier said than done. They got to hit on the picks. Free agency. What free agents can they maybe bring in? To help improve the team. We'll see. But I think for me, I think it's the right move sticking with Kyler. But let me know what you guys think. Are the Cardinals making the right decision by sticking with Kyler Murray? Do you think they should go in a different direction, move off of him, and try to draft, one of these quarterbacks with them picking in the top 5? It's an interesting debate to be had, because you could see both sides. Maybe you feel like the Cardinals can't. Right now, do I think Kyler Murray can win a Super Bowl? Not right now. You got to see him succeed in the playoffs. And the one playoff game that we saw, he didn't play great, So, but I think for right now, just because it's like, again, it's hard to find quarterbacks, because for some teams, I mean, they just constantly recycling quarterbacks over and over again. The New York teams are having that problem right now. So, yeah, I think they're making the right decision, but I can understand, like, maybe, we might not, with the Cardinals, maybe they can't win a Super Bowl maybe Kyler can't take them to that next level, and they should move off of him. But I think for right now, you stick with Kyler and see, maybe if they can rebuild this team, get it back to being a playoff team. Maybe Kyler gets another chance to prove himself in the postseason. Maybe he proves the doubters wrong. So we'll see what happens. But that's pretty much it with this topic. Like I said, let me know what you guys think. Are the Cardinals making the right decision sticking with Kyler, or should they move off of him? With that, we're going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at the current standings, where everything is right now going into the final week of the regular season. And that is what we'll do when we come back from our final break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.